Greetings and welcome to the Unity 3.5 tutorial series. In this one we're going to do just a quick go over on the menu system. Starting off with File, we have a fairly standard selection of file options: New Scene, Open Scene, Save Scene, Save Scene As. A note about Save Scene As: do not use this as a method to transfer scenes between projects. You must export a package to do that, and that will be covered in detail on that particular video. New Project, of course, will bring up the project selection wizard, which you can also use it to open a project. So both New Project and Open Project effectively bring up the same wizard. Of course, save your project. Build and Run will actually build and run your game outside of the editor. This is different from clicking on the Preview button. This is a Preview button. This will actually build your project according to your settings and run it as if you were an actual player. How you set those settings is through Build Settings. Now I am running the Unity Pro trial just to get the maximum number of options visible here. You've got a web player, PC, and Mac standalone. Of course, you need to be on a Mac to actually publish to a Mac. Android, Flash player. Now, if you are on 4.0, this will no longer be in preview mode. You will have to buy this license. iOS, which of course not supported on Windows, and the remaining options are only available if you actually have dev kits, which is utterly not applicable to us. Clicking on Player Settings will bring up the player settings over here in the inspector, and these will be gone over in more detail in a future video. And that covers File. Moving on to Edit, we've got a fairly standard selection of edit options here. Highlights. Duplicate refers to duplicating an object in the hierarchy, not the project. Frame Selected is a very useful way of zooming in on a game object when you have a large scene. Of course, you've got access to your play, pause, and step. This is referring to the preview. Again, these are different from building. Selections are a bit of a more advanced option. Say you are working on a building and you've got like 50 point lights in the building, and you want to change the color of the light. They're standard overhead ceiling lights, and you want to make just all your lights a little bit more yellow. Well, you could save those as a selection and just simply load that selection in rather than having to go through and hunt down all 50 lights. Project settings, I will not go over these in detail because these are for the most part only relevant to programmers or people working on full games. It is not relevant to the intro class. But input refers to input devices, both mice and keyboards. And the only other two that are of interest would be player, which brings that setting back up, and physics, where you can control your gravity. As you can see here, Unity assumes everything is in meters, so our gravity is at negative 9.81. Render settings is where you can turn on and off your fog and set your skybox material and your ambient light, all of which will be dealt with in future videos. Finally, network emulation and graphics emulation. Those are advanced features when you are trying to debug and polish a final game. Snap settings controls what unit of measurement that your objects will use when snapping them around in the scene editor, to be dealt with when we move to that particular video. Moving on to the Assets menu, we can create an asset, and you can also access that same menu by going down to Project, Create, and there you go. The other important options on this one: import new asset. Say you have created a texture image in GIMP or Adobe that you want to import into Unity. This is how you would get that in. Import package. Packages are collections of assets that other people have created and packaged up for you. You can import in one of the defaults. Please take note of the ones that are Pro only, should you be on Basic. You can also import a custom package, one that you have downloaded from some other website that is residing somewhere on your hard drive. Exporting a package. This is the only way to effectively transfer assets between projects. That will be dealt with on a separate video. And the only other really important one on here is re-import all. This will go through and re-import all packages that you have added in to sort of verify that the resources are correct. Do not select this option unless you really think you've got a problem or something's gotten corrupted, because depending on how much you have added in, that can take a while. Moving on to game objects, we have create empty. Now, empty game object is actually a very useful thing, which we will see later. Or we can create one of the default created ones that is available to all projects. The rest of these options, these groups here, you probably really won't use them that much on the beginner level. However, these bottom three here are important. Move to view, align with view, and align view to selected. These three are very useful options, and we'll be going over those once we get into the scene control video. Moving on to components. Components are added on to game objects to give them different functionality. As you can see here, we have a variety of different components that can be added on to game objects to give them different behaviors and abilities. As needed, we will go over the components as we progress through the videos. Terrain is where you handle your creation of your terrain. You can create, import height maps, export height maps, set your resolution, place trees, flatten your height map, and refresh your tree and detail and information. This will, of course, be gone over in much greater detail on the terrain video. And if you've watched the interface video, you are familiar with this one already, our window, where you can open up individual windows to put into our scene or select which layout we are currently using. Help gives us some access to documentation. You can enter a serial number if you have purchased Unity. If you are a student, do not purchase Unity through the main website. Go through an authorized reseller. In North America, that reseller is Studica, which you can access through Unity's website, and purchase it through them because you can get Pro and the various licenses for half off. So, make sure you go through an authorized student reseller so that way you can get the license for half price. And of course, you have your manual, your reference manual, scripting reference, forum, Unity Answers. A quick note about Unity Answers. That is, at low level, probably not your best point. Most of the things on Unity Answers has to deal with scripting and coding. You are usually better off looking at either the forum or the manual or the reference manual for low-level basic questions about the editor itself. And of course, you can check for updates. And, well, that is the menu system. So on to the next video.